so close to the end, and I'm really hyped about this week. So if you want to join in the live discussion of the stories within Destiny, we stream every Wednesday evening the lore of Destiny on the Dames Destiny Twitch channel. So come join us there for the live discussion. All right, for this week, grab those Grimoire books, find a nice electrifying place to take it all in. So last week we witnessed the birth and childhood of Oryx's children. Having children was part of Oryx's plan to permanently establish himself at the pinnacle of Hive hierarchy. Right now we only know of 3 children, Crota, Halak, and Anuk. We postulated that there could be more than 3 children because Oryx's own hatch contained 13 children. This in turn could set us up for future conflicts within Destiny, that the children of Oryx are coming back to get us. But for the meantime, Oryx ensured his position not only by having children, but also by poisoning and crippling his sister's tribute system so they could no longer store up power to be used against him. Halak and Anuk became very powerful within a short amount of time within the Hive system. They ended up inventing the Oversoul and the Death Singer's song. Crota, on the other hand, was overshadowed by his sister's power, and to the point that good old dad said that he needed to be more like his sisters. Well, he tried, and in the end, Crota got a wave of Vex in his face. We don't want a wave of Hive in ours, so we're gonna move real quick. We're gonna go to the magical hallway, full of lore. So this week, that's where we start off with the invasion of the Vex. We get to witness the first blows in the battle between 2 great galactic empires. We're going to be covering cards 39 through 44 in the Book of Sorrows, and we won't be really covering a whole lot of Vex history in this part, but we are going to be doing a lot of poli-sci talk about different methods used by the Vex and what that does to our understanding of the Vex and the Hive as political units. So first we're going to talk about the creation of a demigod. When the Vex first walked through the gate created by Crota, they had some problems. The Vex gate opened up into Oryx's throne world, which uses sword logic. And if you all remember from a few weeks ago, or if you watched a few videos back, we discussed that these sword worlds were essentially another dimension. It would be reasonable to assume that the normal laws of physics and logic that the Vex were used to were not present in these sword worlds. The Vex tried to make constructs that we're used to, but were failing. It's critical to note here that the Vex we're talking about at this point aren't necessarily the Vex we see in Destiny today. These were non-warrior Vex, or as I like to call them, construction Vex. They did not have the independent power to create war. Trying to hold his ground in front of the Vex, Crota started to use his sword to push them back. It's at this point the Vex decided that they needed to do a change of strategy and began the ritual of better thoughts. This ritual creates a Vex mind. Now remember, Vex minds are their leaders, so in the Vex hierarchy, they are at the very top. These are the ones that have independent processing from the machine that is the Vex as a whole. The minds allow for innovation, but also for control. Too much innovation leads to chaos, but no innovation leads to death. This is why the power is limited to the minds and why they are so critical to Vex hierarchy. The Vex mind that was created is called Kura, similar to Inquiry. The first thing it does is deduce sword logic. Again, going back to a few weeks ago, we had a few theories about sword logic, one of which was it acts like a computer, creating models and permutations of situations to learn how to defeat an enemy and to gain power. Having a logic system like that in place made it very easy for Cora to essentially copy and paste Crota's sword logic. Luckily for the Hive, Crota's sword did not contain a lot of sword logic. Remember, he was still a baby Hive at that point in time. But sword logic at its most basic level is very dangerous. Cora deduced that I have to kill everything, and then I will be powerful. It is after this realization that the warrior Vex began streaming from the Vex Gate. Subsequently, all these warrior Vex killed 2,000 acolytes and 10,000 thrall. I'm pretty sure I'm close to that on my grimoire points, but the moral of the story is that's a whole lot of Vex, and that's a whole lot of tribute to Oryx that suddenly was annihilated and went away, so that greatly diminished his power. Now, in the rules of Oryx's sword world, it is also that his court is called the Court of High War. To be able to belong there, one must kill a lot, so one had to become Ascendant Hive to stay there. Given the destruction that just occurred, the Vex, mostly Korra, earned their spot inside of Oryx's throne room. Korra continued the assault to become more like Oryx. The more death you cause, the closer you are to divine, or so the Vex mind logicked. Holic and Newt became more involved as this went on. They summoned all of the wizards to help push the Vex back to their gate. Finally, a stalemate grows where the Vex can't enter the Hive world without losing power, and vice versa. The Hive can't go into the Vex world, otherwise they would be destroyed. This stalemate lasts for 100 years until Korra gets a hold of some worm larvae. Now remember, these worms are gods within the Hive lore. From this, Korra learns more about the worms, how they are central to the Hive way of life, and particularly their religion. Soon Korra becomes obsessed with the religion of the Hive, and this is more than just the obvious reasons you would think: learn more about your enemy so you can defeat them better. The worship of the worms allowed for Korra to alter reality using something called ontopathogenesis. This means existence infection or existence manipulation. Ontopathogenesis is best known to us through the use of the Taken. A being is taken by Oryx and manipulated into a similar but distinct being. Harnessing this power, Korra builds up a priesthood and forces the worship of these worms upon all of its subminds, so upon all of the Vex within its control. Once this worshipping started to happen, Oryx, who kind of was just chilling in the deep for 100 years, got an SOS message from his worm gods about what was going on. I'm actually going to go on a quick tangent now about religion. Why did the Vex mind Korra need religion? So remember a few minutes ago when I said that the first Vex through the gates were probably not warrior Vex? Well, this is very telling to the hierarchy of the Vex. The most we are told by the story in Destiny and the Grimoire cards is that the Vex are evil time-traveling robots from space, and the ones that we encounter are highly militaristic. They always want to shoot you. But either this view of the Vex is very limited, or because of Vex time travel, this is how the Vex function now, but they did not function in the past. Generally, in a society, you have groups of people that specialize in a certain work or area. They can have certain levels of income or a particular level of intelligence, or have a shared history. We can call this a loose definition of a social class. Bringing this back around, we now know that there are multiple classes of Vex, with the mines being at the top of the hierarchy, then there's the warrior group, then there's the construction group. And I'm going to divide them up this way because the grimoire refers to the warrior Vex and to the Vex that construct. So the construction group is at the bottom of the hierarchy because they create the mines and they create resources and materials for the mines and the warriors to use. So logically, when you're thinking of a hierarchy, they are the largest group because a hierarchy follows a pyramid shape. And I would argue that the Vex have a hierarchy pyramid as well, with these construction Vex at the bottom making up the vast majority of their people. One way, and one of the most effective ways to mobilize a large group, is through the use of religion or patriotism or nationalism. It's an ideal that unites a group of people, and when this idea is threatened, or seemingly threatened, it gets this whole group to mobilize and to act. When there is a war, the country rallies behind the government to protect it and support it. When a certain group of people is being harmed or threatened, others in that group rally around the group to create a solid unit. Using this line of logic, I think the Vex mind needed to create an environment that united the Vex against one enemy. Now, there may be a few reasons for this. The first is what we chatted about before with being different classes of Vex in the Vex hierarchy. If Korra united the minds uh, into this religion mantra, it could transform the construction class into a warrior class, uh, hence the mobilization of the people. This would give it more bodies with which to gain tribute to worshipping the worms and fighting the Vex. Another need for religion could be that there are multiple factions within the Vex timeline. Now, we see this somewhat in the Grimoire cards, where there's the 5 different factions. Um, and they're all fighting multiple enemies. If Korra united all of these Vex under the guise of religion, then there would be more to fight against the Hive. This also ties into the Black Garden and how the Deep may really. Like I said, we are not here for a history of the Vex. We're here to talk about the Hive, so we're going to get back to that, and we're going to leave those theories for another time. There's also a few videos on the Dame's YouTube channel that talks about um, the Vex origin story, so I suggest checking you out. So let's get back to Oryx. Oryx returns to find his throne world in disarray. The first thing he does is throw some of the Vex into the deep. Now, the cards say that in doing so, he turned the Vex against one another. I think at this point, those Vex that were thrown into the deep became taken and fought alongside of the Hive. The second thing that that Oryx did was throw Crota into a Vex gate to see if he sank or swim. Crota battled his way through history, alternating between love and hate for his father, eventually understanding why the father did what he did, and what that means for the Hive religion. But that's less we hear about Crota for a while. Oryx then turned his attention to Korra, whom he admired because Korra wanted to live as long as he did. They both wanted to be immortal. Because the Vex Mind is extremely powerful, Savathon, who is Oryx's sister, who's also in charge of all of the wizards, postulated that the mind had prepared for every eventuality and built a victory condition for every possible end state of the universe. Basically, no matter what, the Vex will win. To counter this, Oryx decided, you know what? We're going to fight through this. He decided to make a map of all of the grave worlds left by the Deep. These are worlds that were completely destroyed as the Deep passed through them, passed over them. From this, Oryx wished to learn annihilation logic across time. In order to protect his throne world, that the Vex had gained an impressive foothold there, he took the bones of the dead godworm Akka and built the Dreadnought, which we're on now. So if you see the walls, these kind of look like bones. We are totally inside of a god worm thing, and it's weird and gross. Yeah. So once this dreadnought was constructed to be the new throne world, Oryx ordered his court to help invert the throne world, to basically push it inside out and contain it, yet not contain it inside the dreadnought. So the dreadnought is the throne world, yet not the throne world. It is very confusing. But utilizing this inside out manifestation of his throne world, Oryx's daughters built the sword ship weapon that Oryx used to devastate the Awoken. So he basically pushed his throne world out, changed the dimension of the area around him, and then it retracted to protect his throne. Throughout this, Oryx continued to fight 3 battles. The first one that he was fighting continued to assist the Deep in the Deep's hunt for the Traveler, or the Liar, as the Deep calls it. The other battle he fought was against his sisters. His sisters continually tried to take power from him during this whole situation with the Vex. And then finally, Oryx was fighting against the Vex. The Vex mind continued to imitate Oryx's divine nature, and it begins to imitate something a little bit more. So this leads us into our Grimoire card for tonight. It is part 33, End of a Failed Timeline. By now, Cora knows it can't win. There's something pathological about the world inside Oryx's ship. It resists analysis with hot, dead spite. And Oryx himself? He's irreducible. He refuses to obey Cora's simulations. He crashes around, sowing chaos. He grabs submines and compromises them with some ontological weapon. Paracausal systems. Very problematic. Cora's trying the religious tactics that evolved in the Hive manifold. But even on those terms, Oryx is strong. So strong. Cora won't be able to protect its gates much longer. The closest Cora got to a simulation of Oryx is a best guess bootstrap. It's wrong. Cora's sure of that. It's Oryx minus the symbiotic organism, minus the wings and morphs, minus the weapons, minus the power. No good for anything. Cora manifests that simulation anyways, just to see what happens. The Taken King marches on Cora's Hydra Hall, armed with blade and magic, cloaked in ancient cloth, and the universe wails in horror around him. Cora's physics models and toy worlds choke and crash. Cora observes, alert and attentive, as a single quark spawns on the tip of Oryx's sword. From within the Hydra Hall, Cora's tiny not-Oryx speaks. "What are you?" it asks. It's manifesting terror and awe. Oryx's eyes blaze with a curiosity that is entirely isomorphic with hate, with ferocious hunger. "Arash," he says in his Hive language, "you made me as I am. You made tiny Arash. Ha!" Cora updates the simulation's name. Arash is curious. "You're me? You're me as I become?" Oryx kneels, his blade on his left shoulder. Cora is firing every available weapon at him, but his wards don't break. He looks into Cora's sensors through the hammering fire and says, "Child, I have everything you wanted. I am immortal. I know the great secrets of the universe. I have scouted the edges of the darkness. I have chased down the lying god through galactic arms with a howling pack of wolves. In my fist I carry the secret of power that will rule eternity. In my worm I bear the tribute of my court and of my children, the Hope Eater, the Weaver, and the Unraveler. And with this tribute I smash my foes. I am Oryx, the Taken King. I am almighty." Cora samples the Taux knowledge retrieved from the Ikumai Gate. These are useful names. It feeds them into the simulation. "What about your sisters?" Arash asks his future self. "Sathona, Shiru, are they with you?" The Taken King's fangs glint. The sound might be a hiss or a laugh. Cora shuts down its weapons and puts all its spare resources into sending telemetries to the Greater Vex. There will be points in space and time where this data is vital. There will be great projects undertaken in the study of this ontological power, this throne space. "Where are my sisters?" Arash shouts. "What have you done with my people? What have you done?" But Oryx's fist is full of black fire, and the next thing Cora sees is light like stars. Sorry, that was a crazy long card. Even Bungie thought so, kicking me back to orbit, but I thought it encapsulated the Vex-Oryx relationship pretty well and how it sort of resolved. So what are your theories onto why religion was introduced into the Vex? And now that religion is established and Cora is gone, what do you think is going to happen to the Vex, to that priesthood that they made? Put your comments and thoughts below or chat with me on Twitter and we can discuss more. Twitch, we're going to get to you in just a minute to start talking about this live. And remember, if you want to discuss Destiny lore live, we're here every Wednesday at Dames of Destiny Twitch. And until next week, Guardians, happy reading.